I'll be saying the word stakeholder a lot, and what I mean is everyone impacted by a system. So this can be the people developing the system, users, affected non-users, but also auditors, customers. And that's a very broad definition, and we kind of chose this on purpose so that if we ask people that are developing AI, who is impacted by your system, like who comes to mind? Perfect. And throughout this presentation, SHI is stakeholder involvement. So the motivation for this work was that we just saw an increasing number of responsible AI guidance documents saying that stakeholder involvement is a key component of responsible AI efforts. But I worked as a user researcher before, so I knew that stakeholder involvement is an established part of software development since several decades. And what I mean by this is aspects like user-centered design or agile, where users or customers are involved to increase the ease of use or to iteratively discover system requirements to increase customer value. So we were interested to the extent to which these established practices in industry can contribute to responsible AI efforts. And this question actually has three sub-questions. The first one is, which benefits can stakeholder involvement actually bring for responsible AI efforts? The second one is, okay, what's currently happening in industry? And then the third one brings them together to say, okay, what's currently happening in industry? How much can this achieve these benefits? So let's start with the first one. To answer this, we did a systematic literature review of 56 responsible AI guidance documents, and then we did a keyword search to find where they kind of promote stakeholder involvement, and then did a thematic analysis of these paragraphs. This is just like a selection of the organizations we looked at. We tried to cover quite a broad range, and there's a lot more detail in the paper. So based on this analysis, we kind of found 5 key benefits what these guidance documents try to advance by recommending stakeholder involvement. The first one, and that was the most named one, is to rebalance the decision power of which systems do we build, how do we build them, and which features do they have. The second is, of course, the more people we involve that will be present in the context, the better we will understand the system, and then also the risks in this context, and that's of course true, especially if you involve at-risk communities. And then the fourth and fifth were public understanding and trust, and public scrutiny, because of course the more people are involved, the better they can understand the system, and if you know that people like you were involved and could scrutinize the system, you trust it more. So taking this together, we can probably say that responsible AI guidance does promote stakeholder involvement as a way to address the asymmetry in agency, priorities, and knowledge away from the companies that are developing these systems towards the people that will be affected by it. Okay, let's see what's happening in industry. To do this, we did a survey with 130 practitioners and semi-structured interviews with 10 of them, and this focused on who is involved, why are they involved, and what's difficult about this. To the results. So this shows the drivers, the key drivers, and we could kind of cluster them in 3 broad categories. The first one, the blue one, is kind of traditional and kind of commercially motivated drivers of stakeholder involvement. So yeah, really increased customer value and usability with aspects like increased usability, understand stakeholder needs, concerns, make sure that the system will be purchased. The second category, the orange ones, were kind of selected with a medium frequency, and these were like compliance and legal matters, like follow guidelines required by organizational process, and so on. And then the green category, that were drivers that went beyond this, like give agency to people that will be impacted, increase public trust, understand power dynamics, and they were selected really rarely. Here are a few interview quotes that kind of show or reflect these commercial drivers, like to ensure that the client got something that was meeting their needs, identify product market fit, make sure that people actually sign off on buying. This did influence who was involved. So key involved people were typical end users, domain expert, and the internal legal team. So again, quite reflecting these commercial and legal interests. And who wasn't involved also supports this. So the general public or affected non-users were quite rarely involved. even though a third did recognize that these people will be impacted by the system. And also how people were involved did reflect this. So key methods were prototype testing, usability testing, so quite late when a lot of features were already set. The objective was never, like in no example, set together with the stakeholders. And even if the stakeholders were involved, this quote kind of shows that they were really rarely empowered. So it's hard to make them, they mean their management, stick to what you think would be good for the stakeholder. And this quote really shows that basically all interviewees did kind of perceive themselves in the role of a mediator, where they were trying to push for the needs of the stakeholder and they really cared about them, but they had to stay within the kind of commercial constraints from their management, similar to what you found in your talk. So if we put this together, it seems that the currently established practices really focus on advancing commercial interests. Now, to bring this together, I won't go into so much detail on how we did this, but basically we took these 5 key benefits from the first question, related this to the practice insights from the second question, and then we derived like an estimate on how much these things that happen in practice can help to achieve these individual benefits. Well, and unsurprisingly, this is kind of largely unsuitable, and if it's suitable, then it's only for a very small base of people that are really related to commercial interests, like basically customers. Yeah, exactly this. And one thing I want to highlight here is that we did find that the stakeholder needs were really often in conflict actually with commercial interests. Like prime example is like social media, you know, they want your engagement and your time, you don't want to be sucked in, there's a conflict. And this means that this conflict doesn't even mean that this stakeholder involvement that we need to advance responsible AI efforts is not incentivized, but it's actually disincentivized. Because of course you don't want to involve someone who tells you something that means that you would earn less money. And even if you involve them, then you won't act on what you learn. So yeah, that was really a key problem. Going forward, so I think we looked at this now, and of course there are very different types of stakeholder involvement, and not all of them are suitable to advance responsible AI efforts. So we need clearer guidance and also clearer terminology to be able to communicate this, to highlight this, and also give kind of people in practice that are these mediators the tools so they can go to their management and say, look, what we're doing doesn't have anything to do with responsible AI efforts, just so that that's clear. And then we also saw that legal drivers did motivate stakeholder involvement. So using kind of legal incentives to tie the type of stakeholder involvement we need for responsible AI efforts more closely to commercial interests. So basically getting sued, or in procurement, that you get points if you've done proper stakeholder involvement. Yeah, and if you want to further this, there's an immediate research agenda in the paper. And a lot more details. I really care about paths forward, so yeah, come to me and chat about this. Thank you.